Welcome, ladies and gentle drunks, to the fourth dimension. Big book study, that is. My name is Kevin Olson. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Thank you all for coming. I'm very glad you're here. I'm certainly glad I'm here. I know I need to be here. I need to be with you guys, man. So let's start off, as we always do, with the set-aside prayer. God, please help me to set aside everything I think I know about you, about me, about my fellow man, about the 12 steps, and please allow me to gain a fresh new vision, perspective, and understanding of what you, what me, what my fellow man, and the 12 steps are all about. Amen. And for the sake of tradition, I always like to read, as this is the fourth dimension big book study, I like to read the two parts of our book that talk about the fourth dimension. First of all, on page 8, Bill Wilson writes, I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. And then on page 25, Bill writes that we have found much of heaven and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. All right, brothers and sisters, we're going to be rocketed. We're going to be catapulted. And for the sake of tradition, please, everyone, if you will, put one hand up like this. Everybody put another hand up like this. And everybody go, oh, yeah. Oh, man, that's the best deal ever. For anyone who's listening on YouTube and wondering what are they doing? What are those crazy drunks doing? We just raised the roof, baby. We just raised the roof. Okay, so we are on step 4 tonight. And it's very appropriate for me that we would be on step 4 because in about an hour and a half after this study, I have scheduled to do with my sponsor a step 5. And I try to do one of those just about every and I've got some stuff. Anyone who knows me personally, and some of you guys know, I've had some stuff happen over the last 7.5 months, man. And so it's time to do some house cleaning, and it's very good. It's very appropriate that we would be starting step 4 tonight. So let's just dive into it, guys. Which is really, that's funny. That's one of the first things I want to really talk about. So on page 63, last week we made our decision, really, and that's all that we did. And listen, guys, I want to explain something too. One of the things that I confused in Alcoholics Anonymous for a long time is I thought that in steps 2 and 3, I was becoming spiritual, and that thereby, by becoming spiritual in steps 2 and 3, I could then go and do the rest of the steps. Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought it was. Steps 2 and 3, like that's where you become a holy roller, right? That's where you become, like, you float around on clouds and meditate and all that stuff, and you no longer you never get angry at anyone, and you never have any problems ever again because you've made your decision. You did step 3, and I did step 3, and so I'll never have any problems again. And I thought that I needed to become spiritual in steps 2 and 3 to move ahead with the rest of the steps. And that is completely, like a lot of things that I think, was completely wrong and a completely 180 degrees incorrect. And I remember years after slipping out of in and out of AA, in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous for years, sitting back in the kitchen of the treatment center that I had been in before, broken and baffled and confused and angry that I had drank again and I had relapsed again, and feeling all that self-hatred and self-loathing and all that stuff that we feel as drunks sometimes. I remember sitting there looking at the 12 steps and thinking, like, what did I miss in there? Like, something is just not connecting. And I remember it hitting me like a diamond between the eyes when I read step 12 exactly the way that step 12 is written. And one of the hardest things in the world for me to do is just read the steps exactly how they're written, not how I interpret them, not how I think or what I think those steps mean, but just read the black part of the words. Because at that point in my life, I'd been in and out of AA for 5 years by that point. 30 days drunk, 60 days drunk, 9 months drunk, 6 hours drunk, right? And if you would have asked me, Kevin, what's step 12? I would have said, yeah, I know. By the way, those are the two most dangerous words an alcoholic can ever say. Those two words, I know. And I coach my sponsees about that all the time. Your new mantra is, I don't know. Especially because I've been a recurring relapser. I was earlier in my life, I got 15 years now. But because I was such a chronic relapser, I get a lot of people who are chronic relapsers now, right? Guys who, I also get a lot of guys who have a few years of sobriety and the wheels are coming off and they know it. And they want to get back on track. And I tell them the most dangerous words I can say is I know. And at that point in my life, if you would have said, Kevin, what does step 12 say? I would have said, oh, I know. Yeah, I know. That's the one where you help people. I know. Right? Simple. Isn't that what step 12 says? Help people, right? That's what step 12 says. It's not what step 12 says. And I remember sitting in that treatment center and having it I was stunned because it was like it was sitting there in plain English and I had never seen it. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, I thought, my God, I've had it completely backwards this whole time. I thought that I was having the spiritual awakening in steps 2 and 3, and that by having that spiritual awakening, then I could become holy enough. I was spiritual enough, I was good enough to go ahead and do the rest of the steps. That is not at all how our steps are designed. In step 2, I'm coming to believe that there is a power. And step 3, all I'm doing is making a decision that I want that spiritual awakening that it's indicating in step 12. That's all I'm doing. I'm making a decision. And so, guys, if I make a decision that I'm going to Las Vegas, does that mean I'm in Las Vegas? Not at all. Okay, I've got a long way to go to get to Las Vegas. But I need to make a decision. Without that decision, nothing happens. And in fact, if you look on page 63, I'll even grant you this, okay? It says this was I'm at the very bottom now. This was only a beginning. Though if honestly and humbly made an effect, sometimes a very great one was felt at once. Okay? A very great one can be felt at once by making that decision. I will buy that. And I will tell you, in my experience, that very great effect is gonna wear off very quickly. Okay? Without more continued effort. Okay? If all we needed to do in AA was just come to understand what the problem is, physical allergy, mental obsession, and then just get God. And all I had to do was just flip a switch and just become holy. Just flip a switch and I just get God. Then we would have a 2-step program and no one would ever relapse. And that's, of course, not the way it is. And the paradox that I faced at this moment in step 3, the great paradox that every alcoholic faces, is that my life depends upon building a relationship with God, right? That's what we've come to learn. My case is hopeless. Really, that's the first thing I had to come to believe in. I had to come to believe in the hopelessness of my case. And then I had to come to believe that there is a power, and I had to come to believe and understand that my well-being and my very life was going to depend upon my relationship with this power. And I'm making a decision to turn my will and my life, which is everything, over to this power. Okay? It doesn't mean that that's happened. It doesn't mean that I'm in Las Vegas. All I've done is made a decision that I don't know why Las Vegas. I always use the example of Las Vegas. I like Las Vegas. Las Vegas is fun. One of the great AA conferences in the world. If you've never been to the State Line Conference, in Las Vegas, man. Every December, you should go check it out. But the point is that we have work to do, and this is the paradox that every alcoholic faces: is that few people are more cut off from this power upon which my life depends than alcoholics. An alcoholic like me, selfish, self-centered, filled with resentment, filled with self-pity, filled with dishonesty, filled with fear that I didn't even know I had. I was clueless about how afraid I was as an alcoholic. All of these things are blocking me from this power. And so the first thing we need to do is go in and take an inventory of what are the things that are cutting me off, and then get rid of them. And that's what we are doing today. That is what we are engaged in. And this process of going through step 4 here, guys, is gonna take a couple weeks. Okay, we're not gonna get through all of step 4 as a group in the next hour. Not at all. Okay, it's a strenuous process. That's what our book says. And so we talked about jumping into the work. One of the first things I want to indicate. So we're at the bottom of page 63 here. I'm going to have Brad read in a minute, but I just want to jump into this very first sentence. Okay. At the bottom of page 63, where it says, next we launched. For any of you who don't know this or aren't aware, I want you to take your pen or your marker, whatever you have, and you can write step 4 right there. That is where step 4 begins in our book. Okay. And, you know, it's not necessarily obvious if you don't know that. And thank God for Joe and Charlie and Cowboy Ray and other people who took me through this book and pointed these things out to me. This is where step 4 begins in our book. And so it says, next we launched. Okay. One of the things Joe and Charlie always like to talk about is what is the time factor between step 3 and step 4? Because I've been places where I first got sober, when I was first getting sober, those guys were telling me, those old timers were telling me, and God bless them, but they were telling me to work 1 step per year. So you newcomer, you spend 1 year on step 1. And believe me, I did. I spent 5 years on step 1 is what I did. Okay. These steps are not meant to be taken slowly. And so when it says next we launched, that indicates to me that as soon as we're done step 3, I'm launching. If I want to be rocketed, I've got to launch. Correct? I just made that connection. I've never connected that before. If I'm going to be rocketed into the 4th dimension, then I need to launch into step 4 right now. Okay? And in fact, I like to say one of the ways I know for sure that my sponsees are finished step 3. How do I know when a sponsee is finished step 3? Because they've got a pen and a piece of paper in their hand and they've started step 4. So one of the very first things that you guys are going to do, that I'm going to ask you guys to do, we're going to talk about it here in a minute, exactly what the directions are specifically, but I want to show you guys something. Here we go. This is it. You see that notebook? Can you guys see that? It's blue on blue. It's maybe not the best color. You guys see that notebook? See that? You know what? I'm not going to be fancy with this background screen anymore. Sorry, guys. Hang with me. One moment. One moment. There we go. Okay. Now, can you guys see that notebook? This is a really good step 4 notebook. That's a great step 4 notebook. This is a great step 4 pen. You know how I know that? This is actually my step 4 notebook. This is the actual step 4 notebook that I'm going to be reading my 5th step out of with my sponsor in about an hour and a half. Okay. Probably about 150, 200 pages. Just a good, I often say get a coil ring notebook and a pen. Okay. That's one of the first directions that I'm going to give you guys. And then I've got a whole bunch more in addition to tactically how we're going to do a step 4, in addition to what we're going to read in the book. So it says, next we launched out on a course of vigorous action. How do I know my sponsees are done step 3? Because they got a pen and a piece of paper and they started step 4. That's how you know. One of the great stories I like to tell, and like, you know, some of you probably heard this before and it probably sounds a little old or whatever, but for anyone who's new, it was like E equals MC squared to me, okay? There's 2 frogs on a log, and one of them makes a decision to jump off the log. So how many frogs are there left on the log? There's 2, because all he did, 2, Richard, exactly. There's 2. Why is there 2? Because he made a decision, but he hasn't done anything yet, okay? I remember I could go to that treatment center, I could point where I was sitting on the ground. I could remember the guy who said it, when he said it, and I got it. That my problem is not that I don't know things. My problem is that I didn't do things in AA. Okay. And I made a decision. I did step 3 many times. You know, people joke about the AA waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, drink. 1, 2, you know, over and over and over. Okay. I never did anything. I never actually did these steps. So now we're going to launch into a course of vigorous action. Vigorous means life-giving, okay? So I'm going to hand it over to Brad. Brad, my man, if you could be kind enough to read for us, we're going to kick off the bottom of 63. I'm excited, guys. I'm excited to get into step 4 with y'all. This is going to be beautiful.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad Soloton, I'm a recovered alcoholic. We are on the bottom of page 63. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor
Holy smokes. In that sentence that Brad just read, there's absolute gold in there. Absolute gold, okay? But I didn't know it. I didn't know it until people pointed it out to me. So it says, though our decision was a vital and crucial step. What decision are they talking about? They're talking about step 3. Step 3 was a vital and crucial step, sure, but it could have little permanent effect. Okay, I wanted permanent effect. Remember we said, it says an effect, sometimes a very great one, can be felt at once. And then what did I say? It's going to deflate like a balloon, man. Okay, if I want permanent effect, and I wanted permanent effect, man, I didn't want to keep flailing around. I didn't want to keep destroying my life over and over and over. I didn't want to keep building my life up and then tearing it back down again over and over. Just brutal, okay? I wanted permanent effect. And if I wanted to have permanent effect, I couldn't unless it was at once followed by a strenuous effort, which means it's going to take strength to do this. And some of it is certainly God's strength, and we'll pray for strength, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But some of it, guys, is just willpower, okay? And I want to say here, I think willpower gets a bad rap in AA sometimes. We're quick to say, like, willpower is of absolutely no use. It's like, okay, well, hang on for a second. Willpower is of no use with respect to step 1, okay? Our book talks about how the queer mental functioning surrounding the first drink impairs normal functioning of the will. I get it. In terms of step 1, in terms of me being able to stop myself from drinking, willpower is useless. But there are going to be certain times where I am going to have to exert some of the power of will that I have to force myself to do things I don't want to do. Okay? There are many times. Hey, Mary! What a pleasant surprise, Mary. Sorry, I just got sidetracked there. Mary, wonderful to see you. What a pleasant, there's going to be times I have to force myself to do things I don't want to do. There's going to be a lot of things I don't want to do. I'll give you guys a hint. I don't really want to do the 5th step with my sponsor an hour from now. Okay? There are things I would rather do than sit and read through my garbage with my sponsor. Okay? But there are times where I need to align my will with God's will, and this is one of them, okay? So I need to face and be rid of, a strenuous effort. It's going to take strength to do this, and certainly it's God-given strength. We'll pray for strength, but some of it is just gritting our teeth and forcing myself to do things that I don't want to do, forcing myself to just take direction, Okay. My sponsor tells me there is spiritual surrender in just taking direction. Anyone's will is better than my own will for myself, particularly when I just start taking direction from a sponsor that I trust. Okay. So strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Blocking us from what? What are we being blocked from? Again, guys, we're being blocked from the power of God. Power of God that I need to get in my life to restore me to sanity, to expel my obsession to drink alcohol. That is the only thing that is going to work for an alcoholic of my type. And if I don't get that power connected to me, I am not going to stay sober. Unfortunately, the paradox we're in is that I am blocked from that power. So we need now to face a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things within myself that are blocking me. Okay, I often talk about the Wi-Fi. Okay, we all know what it's like to you're connected to Wi-Fi, and then next thing you know, you get in an elevator and you're disconnected. Okay, or you're out in nature, you're driving around and you get disconnected. Doesn't mean the power's not there. It means I need to change something about my connection to the power. Okay, that's what step 4 does. My grand sponsor Clancy talks about this. Okay, these are like dials on, like antenna on a TV or a dial on a radio. Step 4 is one of the tools that we can use to dial in to get a better connection to the power. Does that make sense, you guys? Thumbs up if that makes sense. Thumbs up if you understand. Okay, when I do a step 5 with a sponsee, you better believe I want him to understand, why are we doing this? Our book calls it feels like a pointless piece of surgery. Why would we do this pointless piece of surgery? It's because I need to do these things to face and be rid of. See, that's what I'm doing with my sponsor in an hour right now. I'm going to face some things that are hard for me to face, and then I'm going to be rid of them. Okay, that's the point. That's the point, is to get rid of them, get rid of the things within myself that are blocking me. Okay. Brad, back to you, brother. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and a fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. Being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations.
Okay, has anyone here ever been part of what they refer to here as a commercial inventory? Has anyone ever, as part of your business or part of your job, done a commercial inventory? Hunter, I see you put your hand up there. Hunter, would you be kind enough to unmute yourself and share with everyone, what does a commercial inventory look like in your business?
Sure, yeah. So it's an exacting process where I've got to know exactly how much goods we have on hand, and exactly how much inventory price-wise that I have on the shelves, and then I compare that with what's gone out the door to make sure that all of that lines up in the check register.
For sure. And if you have a particular item, a particular product, Hunter, that is not selling, what Bill Wilson refers to here is unsaleable, or broken, damaged inventory, what do you do with it?
We're going to get rid of it as quickly as possible.
In your business, is that accurate? Do you really do that in your business?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely, because it's taking up valuable shelf space. And once you clear away that space, what does it leave room for? It leaves room for more stuff, good stuff that is saleable, stuff that is not broken. You know, one of the things I love talking about is that God is the great healer. We don't talk about that a lot, but God is a great healer. He is a healer of souls, brothers and sisters, okay? When I take a drink of water, I don't need to tell the water where to go in my body, do I? The water knows where to go, right? Is that accurate? Yes? The water knows where to go, and so does God. All I have to do is clear away the stuff that is blocking me. God will come into my life and know where I need to be healed. Okay? But if my inventory, if my warehouse is filled with damaged and unsaleable broken goods, there is no room for God. You guys with me on that? You understand what I'm saying? This is what we're doing. We're clearing away the things within ourselves that are blocking us from this power, okay? We're going to get rid of them promptly without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. You know, another thing, and this is an inventory which many of us had never attempted, okay? We've never attempted this. I love great speaker Scott Lee says, you know, none of the steps in AA were things that I was thinking of trying on my own before I got to AA. Okay, when I was sitting in the bar, the idea of sitting down with pen and paper and doing an inventory of my life, believe me, that never occurred to me. Okay, as a tool to help me, but here we are, and this is what we're doing. Okay, another way, along with the inventory analogy, the commercial inventory analogy, I think a great analogy for step 4 is prior to doing step 4, it's like looking in the window of the dryer when it's on spin cycle and trying to see what clothes are in there, trying to figure it out, okay? And I understand that a lot because I'm dumb enough, I'll try to do that sometimes. Like, did I put that pair of socks in there? And I'll just sit and spin around, right? Rather than doing what we ought to do, which is open it up, take it out, and lay it all out. And that's what we're doing in step 4. Okay. That's what we're doing in step 4. And then in step 5, we're going to invite someone else to come and take a look at everything that's in there and tell us what is still looks good and what needs to go. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. So now, guys, this is important. It says being convinced that self manifested in various ways. Where did we get that? We get that page from page 62. Page 62 says selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. So being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. And guys, when we do a step 4 in Alcoholics Anonymous, there are 3 common manifestations of self that we are going to look at. Okay. Now, as I said, I just moved, and so I don't have my whiteboard set up yet. So I will. And typically I would write this down. But for now, for tonight, perhaps Rob can just put these in, okay, into the chat. The 3 common manifestations of self that we're going to look at in a step 4 are resentments. And then we're going to look at fear. And then we're going to look at sex conduct. Okay? Those are the 3 common manifestations of self that we're going to look at. I like to get that aligned for sponsees right out of the gate so they understand that we're going to do a 4-column inventory on resentments. And when we get to the end of that, they are not finished step 4. They are 1/3 of the way done step 4. Because now we're going to look at the second common manifestation of self, which is fear. And we're going to do a 4-column inventory on fear. And then we're going to look at the third common manifestation of self, which we said was sex conduct. And we're going to do a 4-column inventory on that. So those are the 3 things that we're going to look at. Before we jump into the first common manifestation of self, and I'm going to, we will jump into resentment tonight for sure. I want to talk about tactically some of the things that I think are important in terms of doing a step 4. And some of the things that were taught to me. Really, guys, what I'm sharing with you tonight, trust me, is my experience, what I was taught, what was gifted to me through strong sponsors in terms of how to do a step 4. And now having had the same experience, I have taken literally hundreds of men through this work, and hundreds of men and 1 or 2 women. Okay. So, I want to talk about what we're going to do. So one of the first things I'll tell my sponsees, you get a coil ring notebook, you get a pen. Okay. And then, can you guys see how those lines are set up there? Okay. 1 black line across the center, 2 lines through the top. Okay. 1 black line through the center, 2 lines through the top. So this would be page 1. Then I go to the next page. line, line, line. And I turn the next page, line, line, line. And one of the first actions that I'll give my sponsees to do is I want you to write out lines just like that on about 50 pages of paper. Just start writing those lines out. Line, 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 line on a bunch of pieces of paper. And I'm here to tell you there is spiritual value for me in even just making those lines because I'm starting step 4. I am putting pen to paper. I haven't really written anything yet, but at least I'm starting to try something new. Okay? Also, one of the first things that I think is really important before I do a writing in step 4 is to say a prayer. Okay? The prayer, something like, God, please be with me in this process. Teach me, show me what I need to learn about myself, and please be with me and help me to learn what I can do to be closer to you. Something like that. Whatever the prayer is, it doesn't really matter. Okay? The action of the prayer, of inviting God into the writing, is the important thing. So then I start line, 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 line. Okay, make all those lines. And then we're going to start talking about what we're going to be putting in these columns. Okay. When we finish writing, when we finish doing a set of writing, I think it's equally important to say another prayer. Something like, God, thank you for this time. I'm going to put this away right now. Please help me to get back into the business of living and being of service to you and your children. Amen. Okay. So that I can compartmentalize. I can put this stuff away. Okay. I can do little doses of step 4 without having to be that guy that's like flailing around. Oh my God, I'm in the middle of a step 4 and I'm just, like an exposed nerve ending. And I go to the meeting I'm asked to share, and I've seen people start doing their step 5 in the middle of a meeting without, they don't mean to, right? But it just starts coming out because it's right on the surface. I think it's important to say a prayer. Let's pack that away for now. Okay. Tactically as well, this is another thing. I'm a big believer in timers. We all have a timer with us all the time. All the time. I make use of timers a lot. And one of the things that I'll get my sponsees to commit to is that they agree that they're going to do 10 minutes, just 10 minutes of writing in their 4th step every day. 10 minutes of writing every day. Set a timer, 10 minutes, sit. And guys, I want you to know as well, that's what I ask them to do. That's also how I do it. I force myself sometimes to sit, it's like pulling teeth to have to sit for the whole 10 minutes and do all the writing. And then other times, of course, I get to the end of the 10 minutes and the process is going well and I just keep going. But I think it's important to commit to doing that 10 minutes every day, because this is a really dangerous place in the steps, in my experience. I've seen a lot of people get bogged down in the middle of a step 4, and then they stop doing it. And they know they should be doing it, and they're not doing it. They know it. And then who do they not want to talk to? Then they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to talk to their sponsor because they know I'm going to be bugging them about doing it. And as soon as I'm disconnected from my sponsor, I'm in trouble. And I've seen a lot of people get spun right around and go right back out drinking again, right at this point. So I think it's important to set that timer, do a little bit of work on my step 4 every day. Okay. So that's what I do. That's how I do this. It's how I counsel my sponsees to do it. Now we're going to talk about the first common manifestation of self, and we're going to talk about what are we actually going to be writing about. Okay. Brad, back to you.
Resentment is the #1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for which we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing
all right,
with
I gotta jump in. I know, Matt, these pages are so action packed, Brad. I'm sorry, you get there
Oh,
mid sentence.
okay.
I gotta jump back in. So we're gonna talk about resentment. Okay, what is resentment? What does that mean? Well, resentment, it comes from Latin. Okay, resentini, I think is what it is. It's what Joe and Charlie talk about. It means to refeel. Okay, it's refelt anger. Okay, basically. Okay, refelt anger. If I'm angry at you right now, I'm angry. Tomorrow, if I'm still angry at what you did, that's a resentment. And 25 years later, if I'm still angry at you, you better believe that's resentment. And I'm fully capable. Man, alcoholics have a special brand of hatred. Okay? Alcoholics have a special, pure, crystalline brand of resentment and hatred. Okay? And our book says it's the number one offender. Number one offender. It kills more alcoholics than anything. Okay? For while harboring such feelings, we've not only been mentally and physically ill, it says here we have been spiritually sick. And brothers and sisters, this is so beautiful. This is the first place in our book where it truly begins to refer to what my real issue is as an alcoholic. Spiritual sickness. At base, guys, this is the root of the trouble. Well, wait a minute, Kevin. You said on page 62, the root of our problem was selfishness and self-centeredness. Now you're saying it's spiritual sickness. Same thing. When I am spiritually sick, I am a selfish and self-centered human being. Okay, it says here, the next line, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Malady is just another word for sickness. Okay, and this is the root of our trouble, this spiritual sickness. Okay, Carl Jung with Roland Hazard could so clearly identify that Roland's problem was a problem of spirit. Okay, and that from time to time he had seen people have what he calls spiritual awakenings. Dr. Silkworth called it being restless, irritable, and discontent. He wasn't ready to say these people have a spiritual sickness, because he's a medical doctor, but he could tell there was something off about these people. They are restless, irritable, and discontent until they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort that comes at once by taking a few drinks. And the reason I am an alcoholic who is sober today, an alcoholic who does not have to drink today, is because through this work and through these steps, I have found a level of ease and comfort in sobriety. And that is what Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me, has offered to me, okay? Now, this line that we just read, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. This was really kind of revolutionary. This is still kind of revolutionary. And this is something that is unique to Alcoholics Anonymous as opposed to any other kind of treatment or therapy modality. And I am not saying that any other type of treatment or therapy modality is incorrect. I am simply pointing out what Alcoholics Anonymous believes. We believe when the spiritual malady is overcome, then I straighten out physically and mentally and every other way that a person could want to straighten out. I could straighten out financially. I'll straighten out in terms of relationships with people, my family, all that stuff. But I had to put the spiritual malady first. And in fact, guys, I'll tell you, we get a lot of people who come to AA with mental health issues. Okay. I am a person who also struggles with mental health issues. But I had to put the spiritual first and get sober before I could begin to take a look at my mental health issues. I kept trying to do it the other way around. I kept trying to put the mental first, and then I'll worry about doing that spiritual stuff, okay? Or the physical. Guys come to treatment, and what's the first thing guys want to get in treatment? They want to get a gym pass. They want to get a gym pass, and as soon as I get my biceps right, then I'll find the key to sobriety. Okay? Or they want to straighten out. What's another way that people always want to straighten out? I got to get my money right. I got to get financially set. Okay? Then I can do the AA thing. Okay? And it never works. It never works. It didn't work for me, and I've seen it fail for countless sponsees. Okay? One of the things I needed to surrender to is this idea that first and foremost, when we talk about first things first, this is what we're talking about. When the spiritual malady is overcome, then I straighten out mentally and physically. Now, you may say to me, but Kevin, I have trauma. I have trauma. I have deep-rooted trauma, and that's the reason I'm drinking. I'm not going to debate about any of that. I will tell you that I had trauma. Okay, for sure. Terrible trauma from childhood stuff. I get it. But it wasn't until I was 4 years sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, on a foundation of God, on a foundation of recovery, with a solid home group, a solid service position in my home group, and a solid connection to God, that then at 4 years sober, I was finally able to go do the type of treatment and therapy that I needed. Okay? Because otherwise I was going to do what I did every time. I would go to the first therapy session. I'd go to the second one. It would start to get a little hard and I'm gone. I'm gone because I was trying to do it on my own strength. I wasn't trying to do it on spiritual strength because I was still spiritually sick. The spiritual malady had not been overcome. And therefore, I was never going to straighten out mentally and physically. And in fact, I kept getting drunk. Okay? So, guys, this is a super important line. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we then straighten out mentally and physically. And in fact, on page 127, I'm just going to read this quickly. This is in the family afterward. We'll come back to this. In the family afterward, though, it says, the head of the house ought to remember that he is mainly to blame for what befell his home. He can scarcely square the account in a lifetime, but he must see the danger of over-concentration on financial success. Although financial recovery is on the way for many of us, we found that we could not place money first. For us, material well-being always followed spiritual progress. It never preceded. Okay? And the spiritual malady is overcome. Then I straighten out mentally, physically, financially, every kind of way that I would want to. Okay? So, Brad, back to you.
In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore. We were burned up.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there, guys. That's the first direction, the first real direction for step 4. It says, in dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed, it says, people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. Okay? That's the first direction we're going to take. And so I'm going to show you guys something. There we go. Sorry, just one moment. One moment. I'm going to share this. Here we go. Okay, can you guys... Oh. No. No, not that one. I don't know why it switched over to that. Hang on. Okay, there. So you'll see there, that's what we're doing, okay? So we set those lines together, one line through the center, 2 lines through the top. And this is what we call a 4-column inventory. So you can see the numbers there. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. For right now, all I'm doing is referring to column 1. Okay, and what I want you guys to understand, anyone who's never done this before, we're going to put 1 name per page. Okay? Please, for goodness sakes, don't do what some of my sponsees do when I try to explain this to them. They write the name of every person, principal, or institution they've ever been angry with, all of it within one little square on one page. It's not what we're doing. 1 name per page, okay? Now, you'll see in this instance, I wrote mom. Almost without fail, I think most of us who've ever listened to a 5th step or had a sponsee will tell you, unfortunately, the reality of many of people's 1st, 4th, and 5th steps is resentment number 1 is mom or dad, and resentment number 2 is mom or dad. That's usually just the way it is. And resentment number 3 is her or him, the ex, whoever it is, almost without fail. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're writing one name per page. We're listing one person, principal, or institution with whom we are angry. And the reason why I want my sponsees to have all those lines written out in advance, okay, all of those lines written out on about 50 different pieces of paper, is so that they can quickly, stream of consciousness, write the name as the name comes. Remember, we've said the prayer, God, please show me what I need to do. Okay, so who's one person I'm angry towards, okay? And I remember I didn't think I had any anger. I thought, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I don't really tend to hold on to things. I just kind of let things go. But I can see why this step would be good for other people. And, I wish everyone another 24. And I remember the counselor at the treatment center shut down the meeting. He said, if you don't have any resentments, you're probably not an alcoholic and you're probably living in the wrong house. Why don't you get honest with yourself? Okay. And as it turned out, he was right. In my first step 4, I had 72 resentments. Okay. Once I started to get honest and real with myself about the fact that I had any anger at all, then quickly they started to come. And that's what I want my sponsees to do. Stream of consciousness. So mom, next page, dad, next page, cousin, next page, Justin Trudeau, whoever, he's literally on mine. So anyway, whoever it is. Now I'm going to give you guys an example. Okay. I'm going to show you another very useful tool. I'm going to show this to you, but then I'm going to show you where to find it. Okay. So this is a piece of gold known as the resentment inventory prompt sheet. Okay. Now I'm here to tell you, if you will just put this into your step 4, or rather, there's this new website. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Google. Okay. It's what's known as a search engine. Okay. If you'll go to Google and just put in step 4, resentment inventory prompt sheet, or something like that. Step 4, resentment prompt. You got to put the word prompt. That's key. Step 4, resentment prompt. You will find this list. Okay. And this list was super helpful for me. It just gave me an idea of things that I may or may not be resentful towards. Okay. So I started going through this and I was like, police, parole. Oh yeah. How about the Calgary Parking Authority? Yeah, I'm angry at the Calgary Parking Authority. How about, Alberta Health Services? How about, teachers? How about that teacher in grade 7 that got me in trouble? Yeah, sure. Okay. And if a name comes to mind, I do not edit. Okay. If a name comes to mind, I am sure that God has put it there for a reason. Okay. And I don't edit. And one of the lies that alcoholism will tell me is like, no, I don't, but I let that go. I don't hold on to that anymore. Nonsense. Okay. I am still holding on to it for sure. And I need to write it down. Okay. My first sponsor told me, Kevin, you need to write down the name of every person you've ever met and then take off the ones that you don't resent. Okay. Now he was joking, but the point he was making is that we are very resentful people. I am a very resentful person. Okay. As it turns out, I'm a person with a deep problem with resentment and anger. And thank God I have learned the tools of Alcoholics Anonymous to help with that major defect of my character. Okay. And there are tools and I will teach them to you. We will learn them together over the course of this study. How do we apply these tools to help me overcome this terrible, painful, destructive anger that I think I can say I used to feel. I had people when I was early in AA come up to me with anger management books and be like, I think you'll find this helpful. And I would tell them what I think would be helpful for them. Okay. But that's real. That's real, man. I had strangers come up to me and be like, "You're a very angry person. Here's a little anger management book with these happy little anger elves that were learning how to, I'm not kidding. I'm not making that up. That's real." Okay. So that's what we're doing. Guys, we're doing all of column 1 first. Okay. So stream of consciousness, all these names coming up. Okay. Whoever it is, whatever it is, these principles that I might resent. Okay. And by the way, guys, look at the one, it's about 10 down. You see there? It's a 3-letter word, starts with a G. G to the O-D, baby. It is fine to be angry at God. You can absolutely hate God. But what did we learn last week? The most important thing is that I believe there is a God. Okay? Even if I hate that God, it's okay. We've got steps for that, and we can help with that. Okay? So that's column 1. That's what we're going to do. We're going to list people, principles, or institutions with whom we're angry. Get it all out. Get them all down. And then, and only then, will we move on to column 2. Okay? The next part in our inventory. So column 1 is going to be who we're angry at, column 1. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to write column 1, who I'm angry at. And then I'm going to write here, column 3, column 1, who I'm angry at. Okay. And you can see, look, guys, I'm not telling you to do anything. I don't want you to see too much of this, but like that, this is how I live, man. Okay. This is the 5th step I am going to read to my sponsor in about a half an hour. Okay. This is it. Okay. Column 1, you can see there. Okay. This one says Brad.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Finally made my sponsors resentful. I must have followed them off enough.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay. But now it says, guys, this will be the next direction, and then we'll call it enough for tonight. And then please, we're gonna finish up. Please don't drop off the call right away, because my favorite thing in the world, okay, is we're gonna go around the boxes and everyone can introduce yourselves and let us know where you're calling in from. I just think it's the coolest thing in the world. Okay, so we're gonna finish up here. Column 2. So maybe I'm making too big a point of this. I mean, maybe it's pretty obvious, but I just want everyone to understand, because Russell Spatz, one of my favorite AA speakers, says when alcoholics hear things they don't like, they get confused. Okay, and a lot of AAs don't like hearing about step 4, and so we just get confused. Okay, column 2. Now we're in column 2. We're in here. Okay. We're writing, why am I angry? Why am I angry? Okay. And look, guys, this is my inventory. Okay. So name and why am I angry? Name, why am I angry? Okay. This is what we do. Now, I used to think that it was good to just write and really get it all out and get all the feelings out and write it all down and it, just don't be afraid to like indulge every, I used to think that, and I used to teach that in this big book study. I don't teach that anymore. And now what I like to say is what I learned from a couple of guys named Chris and Myers Raymer from Texas. I don't know if you guys know Chris and Myers, but what Myers, and of course, we do what the big book suggests, correct? We do what this book suggests. And what they point out is that in the example they provide, where it has Mr. Brown here, in no case where they are describing the cause in column 2, do they use more than 19 words. They keep it short and to the point, quick bullet points. That's it. And if that's what Bill Wilson did, then that's what I'm going to do. Okay. And that's what I believe today. So I don't believe anymore. And if you look at like Mr. Brown, so we're just going to go to 65 right now. Mr. Brown, his attention to my wife. told my wife and my mistress, Brown may get my job at the office. What we're not doing is listening to the 4-part miniseries, the ongoing saga of the four-part Netflix documentary about how his attention to my wife, what that was. Okay. No, he paid attention to my wife. Boom, bullet point. Because what we really want to get down to is causes and conditions. These are just symptoms of the causes and conditions. These are just symptoms of the sickness. Okay. We want to get down to the root of the trouble. Okay. And we will. Okay. So I think that's going to be it for tonight, guys. We're going to pause. We're going to stop there. If you're doing this at home with yourself, feel free to to reach out or whatever. If you have questions about how to do this anytime, I'm happy to talk about this all day long. I think it's one of the most important things that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous is our first 4 and 5. It's not the only thing that we do. Okay. There's a lot more that we do, but it's one of the most important things. I think Bill talks about in the 12 and 12 that for many of us, doing a step 4 and a 5, doing that inventory is the first time that we started to feel a real sense of belonging in AA. It's the first time that we really put our flag in the ground. We really did something in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I think it's really important. So column 1, who are we angry at? Column 2, we asked ourselves why we were angry. We're not going to use any more than 19 words per name, quick to the point, quick bullets. Okay. So with that said, you guys, that's going to be it for tonight.